Hello and welcome to Low Budget Gaming and welcome to another first Descendant video. So I wanted to talk about Bunny because I got a few comments asking for a build for Bunny, and also I just wanted to chat a little bit about Bunny because at this point Bunny is starting to lag behind some of the other Descendants. So it's time for a bit of a tweak to Bunny. So what I'll do in this video is I'll cover two builds for Bunny, one for newer players because I've had a few requests from newer players, and also one for the late game stuff. Now, Bunny has often been given away in the events for new players and returning players and things like that. So I have a build here that will work very well, the classic build that works excellent for all the way up to your Sigma sector. So it will be handy for farming, for the 400% dungeons, the amorphous materials, the void vessel, the void erosion purge. You can even use it in the Axion planes early on and you'll still be fine. So this is what I call the classic Bunny build, the always running setup. I still use this one primarily because I still use Bunny for 400% for special operations, things like that. So Bunny is still very good for that. The first void vessel is something I only use Bunny there. So yeah, so this is your standard build. So what I have over here is a non-crit setup. I'm also not going to use any trigger modules or ancestors modules because again, we are covering this for the Sigma sector and for new players. And then the second build will have all those things. So what we have is the electric condense. We are mostly going to rely on the third skill to do the continuous damage. And what we have is power increase. You can use focus on electric, but I wanted to balance the three types of damages. So we have power increase, electric amplification. Again, non-crit setup. Bunny has a 10% base crit, so we are not working with crit. We have focus on singular amplification. Again, mostly for the third skill. Maximize conservation, strong mentality. These two are for reducing the cost. So if you see over here, for example, the electricity cost for the electric condense is 400 by default. We have reduced it down to 185, so less than half. So these two for the cost. MP conversion, nimble fingers. Again, you don't need too much cooldown, but if you want to spam the first skill or even the fourth skill, you can use two cooldown mods. You don't need two cooldown mods. And then we have two range mods. Range mods are good because we want to get as much range as possible on her ring. So if you see, radius is 7 meters. We've managed to increase it to 20.6, almost there. We can get some of the rest from the inversion reinforcement because the inversion reinforcement has been changed. Previously, we used to get some free skill power and range from there. For the reactor, we have the Tingling Singularity Reactor, cooldown and singular. For the external components, you can either go for the 4 pieces of the Slayer set, or you can go with 2 pieces of the Plague set and 2 pieces of the Hunter set. This will give you a nice balance of HP and cooldown, and also you will not need an HP module in here because even without that, you're still at a comfortable 9,000, which is plenty for 400% for Sigma sector, Void Erosion Purge, all those places. You don't really need a lot of HP. Arche tuning looks like this. So we take all the skill, we take both the MP recovery out of combat and the skill cost, range, enhanced skill power. We take the skill in the middle, MP, cooldown, take the skill nodes, take electric chain catalyst as your mutant cell. For the inversion, we have this sort of setup. You can go with either focus boost or you can go with the spatial dominance. So this will increase your range a little bit to help you max out, but we're almost there, so you don't really need this. Then you can go with selective neurostimulation, or you can go with selective cellular stimulation, whichever you prefer. If you're running low on HP, you can go with this one, and then something like deploy hardened shell to reduce the incoming damage. So this is again a very simple classic build. You can use the Thunder Cage. We are not going to use the gun, so you can hold any gun you like. Thunder Cage is a pretty good gun, so you can use it now. I'll just quickly show you the build if you want it. So here is what I'm using. Okay, so this is the Thunder Cage. All right, now on to the late game build. Now this one will be crit based. This one will have ancestors modules and trigger modules and things like that. And this will also be a little higher in terms of skill requirement. Like I said, Bunny is still not ideal for places like the Forbidden Sanctuary and things like that, but you can still do a decent job. So this is what I'm using currently. I don't have, as usual, the perfect ancestors mode, but it's a pretty decent one. And so what we are trying to do is more or less keep the same thing, but we are trying to squeeze in the grid modules. So we are going with focus on electric, focus on singular, same thing. You can switch between focus on singular or focus on fusion depending on whether you want to use the third skill more or you want to use the first skill more. So yeah, it's a bit flexible. Try out either, see which works better for you. We have MP conversion for the cooldown, and then we have one range mod in skill expansion. We have nimble fingers. Maybe I could do it like this so it looks more consistent. So MP conversion, nimble fingers, skill expansion, inside concentration, emergency measures, and we are using maximize conservation. We are not using front lines because again we need to reduce the cost a little bit. For the ancestors module, I have crit rate because again this is a crit build, and we have singular power boost ratio. So this will help with our third skill. And also to help with our third skill, we have the infected weapon. Now the infected weapon was basically a trigger module for Freyna, but it does help with the continuous damage type skill. So Bonnie's first skill is continuous, third skill is continuous. So we'll only get the first part of this, the Arche infection, the damage skill power times 819 over here. We're not going to get the exclusive weapon thing, but this will also help us nicely by giving us more power to the third skill because this has a very low modifier. As you can see, 198, and that has been reduced to 178. We do have focus on singular, so that will give us a little bit back. But yeah, this skill isn't very powerful. We are using crit setup here to give us a little more power. Now, on the outside, we have a new external component set for Bunny called the Sprint Accelerator. This was added with Ultimate Eugen in the Forbidden Sanctuary. I've been trying this, and this seems to help with the MP costs for me at least, and seems decent. So the 2 set effect is not useful. Fire resistance. We have the 4 set effect when maintaining a sprint speed of 1450 or higher, which is what Bunny does. Everybody else caps out at 1440. So Bunny is the only one who can use this. Grants sprint accelerator 1 stack up to 5 stacks, 3-second duration. While sprint accelerator is active, using a continuous damage type skill converts it to accelerator release. And the accelerator release is a little more electric power. When dealing damage with electric skills at 5 stacks, MP heal equals 5% of max HP. So you get some electric power and you get some MP recovery. It's not the best, let's say, external component, but it is useful. So if you don't like this, you can go back to the 2 pieces of the Plague set and the 2 pieces of the Hunter set because they are kind of similar. But yeah, this is something for Bunny. And I found it to be decent, so I've been using this. For the Reactor, we are going with the same tingling singularity. You can go with cooldown and crit damage. Now, once again, you can try the fusion setup here as well, going for the crit damage and cooldown on the tingling mixture reactor if you want to use the first skill and the fourth skill a bit more. For the Arche tuning, we are going with this setup here. So once again, we are taking the skill, we are taking the cost, we are taking the range, we are not taking the enhanced skill power. We're taking all the skills in the middle, the cooldown, we are taking the crit damage and the crit rate. And then we are going here, taking the skills, and we are taking the electric chain catalyst, so the same mutant cell. For the inversion reinforcement, one change. So you could say we are taking focus boost, we are taking instant acceleration for the shadow. So this will help us over there, and we are taking the deploy hardened shell. Also, I think I forgot to mention, electric charge is the Transcendent module. So you'll get some benefit if you jump constantly because you'll do a lot of damage on double jumps. For the shadow, here's the build for the shadow on the outside. We have melee weapon attack, melee weapon toxic attack, 2 additional damage, and 1 additional attack chance. And over here, additional attack damage, attack chance, melee weapon attack. Again, I have attribute status. You can go with toxic over there. Inside, the build looks like this. Okay, so yeah, so that is basically Bunny. Now, I just wanted to briefly talk about what they could do to improve Bunny, because while I think a straight up buff isn't necessary, I think some quality of life adjustment is needed. Bunny has a 10% crit rate, so building her into crit is not as easy as some of the other descendants. Bunny also needs a lot of things like cost reduction. So most other descendants don't really need mods for this sort of thing. So, and then Bunny also needs a lot of range because her ring needs to be, at the full distance. Over here, you can see we are only getting 15.7. Ideally, you want the range to be maximum. So what they could potentially do is reduce the cost, in my opinion. Another easy thing they could do is increase the synchronization value for Bunny, so that when we do try to get some crit mods on the ancestors, crit rolls on the ancestors, we get a higher value, so that it's easier to build her into crit. So these are some of the things they could use, or they could perhaps increase the modifier for the third skill, the lightning emission, because it is very low at 198. So if they could increase that, that alone will make Bunny a lot stronger, because the enemies in the later dungeons, like the Forbidden Sanctuary, they'll not go down that easily with a non-crit setup, let's say. Another thing they could consider is maybe giving her some sort of defense reduction for the enemies. Like one of the skills adds some extra defense reduction, so that we don't have to try out some different shenanigans with the Arche tuning and try to get the defense neutralization setup. So yeah, something like that. Not a straight up buff as such, but something that makes it easier to build Bunny, because she needs a lot of things to be working, like the range and the cost reduction and things like that, always running basically. So yeah, let's see what they do. Anyway, I'll leave you with the footage of some of the dungeons. I'll leave you with the Void Erosion Purge 10, one of the Axion Plane missions, and the Forbidden Sanctuary. Let me know if you still use Bunny, and if you think Bunny needs a buff, if you agree with me, if she needs some adjustments, because at this point with Daya and Glay and all the other people, Bunny is starting to lag behind a little bit. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Descendant, a large cluster of breach creatures has been detected in the area. Breach creature response confirmed. Approaching location. void mutant signals. Be careful. Vulgus Special Assault Ship identified. Descendant, Vulgus comms traffic is increasing at your location. It looks like Legion of Breach troops have been deployed. Vulgus Special Assault Ship identified. Picking up void mutant signals. Be careful. Descendant, requesting takedown of enemy assault ship.
No chance! Get out of the way! Out of my way!
Picking up void mutant signals. Be careful.
Shocking, right? Awesome! Awesome! How about this?
Breach follower squad approaching in encircling formation. Respond immediately. Vulgus Special Assault Ship spotted. Descendant, primary tactical objective confirmed in Operation Zone. Please take it out.